Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. So today on the program, we have an entire hour of computer and technology news. Yep, you got that right. And hey, we got a lot of stories that we're going to cover. We have everything from, let's see, we have this great article about hard drive failure rates. And if you're wondering, wow, Ben, I could not think of anything more boring than hard drive failure rates. Well, is that going to be so boring when you're out there shopping for your next hard drive? This is really going to, kind of lead you to think about which manufacturer, which brands, what size, things like that are the most reliable. And as we all know, a failed hard drive is just a tragedy, just a tragedy. So with that being said, everyone, welcome into the show. Yesterday, obviously, we had no Computer America Live. Instead, we ran our best of Computer America, and of course, it was Veterans Day. But we are back now. Hey, ready to go. And I think today, before we get started, a couple of things. We have a couple of new reviews. I think we have at least 3, if not 4 new reviews up on Computer America. We did the macro, it's actually macro, wide, and wide lens. This little clip, it's by One Clip, Hitcase, and they're clips that you put on the back of your smartphone, and you put it right up against your camera, and it acts as a lens for your camera. Just like any other lens that you'd have for any other camera. Well, this is a very simple, hassle-free way to use those kinds of things in your everyday shooting. So I found that very interesting. So that was one review that we did. We also have the 70mm jump starter as well as the dash cam. So the dash cam Lite, as I understand it, that is up for sale here today. But we don't have anything to do with the sale, but we did do a review of the product. We really liked it. And I think we also did one more. I'm trying to think which other one that we did. And it'll come to me later, I'm sure. But hey, and hopefully within the next day or two, we'll also be doing we have a wireless security camera that we're going to be checking out. And also, if you haven't noticed, we changed headphones. These are by Audis, and these are the LCD, I think the LCD ones. We'll have the exact name there when we do the review, but that review should be coming up here Friday. And spoiler alert, these things are awesome. These things are hands down some of the best headphones I have ever used. So so read the full review when we do that, and we've been using these for about a week now, and we really enjoy them. So with that being said, we're getting all of our reviews out, trying to work through a backlog, and hopefully all of you, I'm not saying that, our reviews should be, kind of what sways you to purchase, but if you are looking at some of these products and you're wondering if these are good, then you should definitely check these out. And there you go. Hey, you get our own personal opinion on them. So with that being said, ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including today's show notes, past shows, future shows, podcasts, articles, reviews, and more at ComputerAmerica.com. And in the meantime, let's go ahead, get started with computer and technology news because there is a lot to talk about. So for our first story today, and this is not any particular story because every news publication, news outlet that we went to had kind of the same thing, and I just want to calm down any fears that may be out there among our audience, that Disney Plus did launch today. Congratulations, everyone. But you are not the only one who is experiencing login issues. That, in fact, is everyone's issue as well. I believe a statement from Disney read along the lines of the turnout, or I should say the reception is even greater than our high expectations. So even Disney is like, yeah, we knew it was going to be big. And their PR person said, we didn't think it would be this big. Now, as someone who has been a member of a lot of launches, I mean, mostly from the consumer side, mostly from the video game side, I will say that this is not unusual for a service or anything that requires an internet connection, to someone else's server to do. Mostly, like I said, video games. The first day is usually I can't say that word on the air. It's usually a very bad time. And although those are some of my favorites because you're guaranteed to get a very unique experience because something like this will never happen again in the history of a service like this. And of course, for video games, it can be other expansions and things like that. It may come around again, but for Disney, this is going to be it. And I want you to take all those feelings of, man, this is awful. I can't do anything. I'm locked out. I can't log in. The lag so bad. I keep getting disconnected. I want you to take all of those bad feelings and I want you to cherish them as a very happy memory because that means you were there for the first. You were there for the launch. You were one of a massive horde of people trying to squeeze through a set of double doors to what is now Disney Plus. Now, I say all this because this is very common for large companies, even the largest, even the size of Disney. You can rent server space and you can handle infinite traffic if you have infinite resources and you decide, we're going to be able to facilitate every single one of them. And I'm sure I'm oversimplifying this for any network engineers out there, but I will say most companies don't want to spend the money that would perfectly handle any reception because they will never again need that level of bandwidth. It's you have this giant surge at the very beginning, and then as time goes on, the usage rate kind of levels out. People log in whenever they're going to log in. They're going to be able to spread out the load. Overall, this is an anomaly, and you don't buy servers and server space and traffic and bandwidth. You don't buy all that very, very expensive stuff from millions of people and millions of customers when you know that after today, maybe a couple of days because people are getting locked out and they can't watch what they want to watch, but after a couple of days it's going to subside. People are going to cancel their free subscriptions. People are going to cancel the service altogether. People are going to go back to watching Netflix, because Disney Plus is new, so they tried it and then they won't. So on and so forth. They're just not going to. So the beginning is going to be rough. The rest of the service I expect to be, perfectly fine. This is not indicative of, this is not indicative of anything wrong really on Disney's part. This is par for the course. I would say though that this does kind of show that just like any other major, any other major service out there, by having this crash, they've at least met my expectations of the adoption rate of Disney Plus. At least the initial surge, it's enough to cause everyone to have problems. If no one was having problems, I'd be like, that's very interesting. maybe Disney isn't pulling the kind of numbers that they thought they were going to pull. But that is not the case indeed. So give it a couple days. It will work itself out. To all the PR people who are saying, wow, we didn't expect this whatsoever. Bull honky, you totally expected this. And I think everyone out there who is at least not new to this kind of thing should have expected it as well. Probably even by this afternoon, or even, like I said, a day or two, everything should be fine. Everything should be fine, and everything will level out. Just for now, enjoy the rough ride. So everyone, once again, Disney Plus launched. If you didn't catch the main, that big point, and people are having trouble with it. And like I said, it's not just you. So that's not really a story that we did. That's just something that a topic that we saw on a number of news organizations, and we're like, we might as well at least touch on that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on. All right. So the second biggest article of the day, and you might want to turn your attention to the video portion of the show, available at twitch.tv/Computer America, or of course if you're watching on YouTube or live on computeramerica.com. But I will say, the video, Sonic the Hedgehog, yep, the one, the only Sonic the Hedgehog, where they have released their second trailer. If you hadn't caught the first one, the design of the main character, Sonic, was atrocious. And by atrocious, I mean kind of scary, kind of horror scary. So with that being said, they released their kind of fix. They have their their second trailer, and it looks a lot more fun. Like, that's what I expected of, kind of a kids movie, a reboot of the Sonic franchise. First time he's getting a big screen movie. Sonic looks fun. That's the goal, isn't it? And the character looks a lot more cute. It's much more indicative of the older model. And it led a lot of people to believe, what the heck was the studio behind Sonic thinking? Because it was so bad. And someone somewhere along the way had to say, this looked really horrible. And I guess the prevailing thinking nowadays is that internally they had problems with the design as well, and they were kind of on the fence. And then they released the trailer. The public had their go at it. My God, the internet did their thing, and yeah, within 2 days, the studio said that they were going to rework the imagery behind Sonic the Hedgehog, and like that internal on the fence kind of thing turned into, all right, we definitely have to change this. That's one side of it. And by the way, this is being produced by Paramount and of course Sega. Now, here's the thing. Paramount, I would not put this past them. I would not put it past them that they released the first one knowing that it would get horrible reviews. And it would get this very visceral, horrible reaction, but at the same time, it would be a very viral and loud reaction. People would be talking about it, and certainly they did. It captured the internet for a long time. And to see how quickly they turned around, how much cleaner the end product looks, of course, a couple of weeks and months down the road. They said that, hey, and by the way, this was actually in early May. So we have May, June, July, August, September, October, 5 months. They've had 5 more months to work on this and polish it. And trust me, even though they released the first trailer in May, the movie was nowhere near finished in May, especially a movie as heavy into CGI as this. They're still very much working on it. But still, a 5-month turnaround to make this high quality of a product on top of just fixing the model, I think, and this is not even really that much of a conspiracy theory. This is like a no duh. I think that Paramount put out the original trailer to get people really interested and really engrossed in, what would be the eventual end model of this. Because honestly, if it stayed like that, people would be mad, angry. But hey, they'd be paying attention. Whereas now they're really excited. They think it looks a lot better, that kind of thing. It was a form of viral marketing. Yes, it was a marketing campaign. We all fell for it. We all love to fall for it because guess what? I think the studios are learning that, and really the internet at large needs to be aware of this, that companies are learning that outrage culture can help them. And outrage culture, if you haven't heard about it, is this idea that people love to get angry about something, and they will do so very quickly. And don't get me wrong, outrage is very quick. It's very fleeting. It doesn't stick around, but when it happens, boy, does it get attention. So they utilize this for a bit of free marketing. And with that being said, everyone, if you haven't seen the new trailer, definitely go check it out. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020. I believe it's available on their Twitter. It's obviously up on YouTube. I'm sure it's trending in certain places. And yeah, go check out the trailer. Whether or not we were all deceived in some grand master plan by Paramount, the trailer looks a lot better. So I can at least say that. Before I was very much, I have no interest in seeing that. And afterwards, seeing Jim Carrey up on screen and seeing the better design of Sonic the Hedgehog, I was like, that looks like fun. That went from a definitely won't see to I'll probably wait till it's on a streaming service. But it looked very interesting, and I'm happy that they were able to do that. Now, I know that was the second biggest story of the day. So where do you go from there? Where do you go from Sonic the Hedgehog? How about we go to Apple, an Apple Card? I should say Apple Card more specifically. Excuse me. This is going to be a little bit heavier of a story, unfortunately. So I don't know how I should modulate my voice for that, but a bit heavier of a story. This one coming to us from Ars Technica, and they said that New York regulators investigating Apple Card after viral complaint of sexism, which is bad. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but it's bad. This is by Ms. Kate Cox. Customer service reportedly blamed the algorithm for discrepancies. And this is interesting because, and really that the kind of subheading is what caught my eye, was that we blame the algorithm, and this is not the first time we've heard of unfortunate, bad algorithms causing real world harm to women, to minorities, to to any subset group of people that you can kind of lump together. This is not the first time, and I really feel like it's not going to be the last time. So Apple launched its own branded Mastercard nationwide in August, and in the months since, the digital-first payment system has won some fans for its easy integration into the iPhone and Apple ecosystem. And it more or less seemed to work about as well as any other credit card. Well now, financial services regulators want to know what's going on under the hood amid accusations that the software determining the card's terms has a sexist slant. How could that happen? So they said that software developer and entrepreneur David Hansen took to Twitter late last week to complain about his wife Jamie Hansen experience with the Apple Card, saying the Apple Card is such a sexist program. A little more colorful language in that, but we'll leave it at that. He said, "My wife and I filed joint tax returns, live in a community property state, and have been married for a long time. Yet Apple's black box algorithm thinks I deserve 20 times the credit limit that she does. No appeals work." Saying that it gets even worse, saying that he added sharing a screenshot showing $0 owed on a limit of apparently 5724, saying that even when she pays off her ridiculously low limit in full, the card won't approve any spending until the next billing period. Women apparently aren't good credit risk even when they pay off the balance in advance and in full. So they said that speaking with Apple customer service did no good, saying that the representative repeatedly deflected the blame to the black box that makes the determinations, and the black box being, of course, the algorithm. You know, the one that accounts for all the risks and all the and all the variables, and really everything that happens banking wise. Like, even though Apple, of course, has to deal with this, and this is Apple's card, so this is Apple's problem. Really, I would kind of put the blame more on the banking system, on Mastercard, and I believe on Goldman Sachs is the one who is issuing the card. I would actually kind of put the blame more on them than I would on Apple, because honestly, Apple is more the face, the brand, and the look, style, the interface of the card than it is the actual lending account, that kind of thing, than that. So obviously Apple has problems, but I would also lay blame on Goldman Sachs. So he said that the customer service representatives were very nice, courteous people representing an utterly broken and reprehensible system. This is again all from the first gentleman who had the complaint. Saying, I don't know why, but I swear we're not discriminating. It's just the algorithm. It's just the algorithm. Several other men on Twitter chimed in with replies outlining similar experiences. They said that their wives, who on paper look like the better credit risk, receive significantly less favor terms on their Apple Card than they did. One of the responses came from Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, who tweeted that although he and his wife had only joint bank accounts and assets, his Apple Card was given a 10 times higher limit than his wife's. So yes, even Steve Wozniak is chiming in saying, yeah, it happened to him too. So obviously, as this went viral, it gained media attention, and representatives of Apple VIP customer service stepped in. They bumped the credit limit on the people who were complaining. You know, not everyone who was complaining, or not everyone who was issued a card, but at least for these individuals, they were given a credit limit that matched their husband's. So they said that the external investigations showing the Apple VIP support aren't the only ones interested in figuring out why this happened and what happened with the algorithm. They also noticed that here in New York State, we support innovation, and they said that, however, new technologies cannot leave certain consumers behind or entrench discrimination. We believe innovation can help solve many changes, including making quality financial services more accessible and affordable, yet this can't be accomplished without maintaining public confidence. For innovation to deliver lasting and sustained value, the consumers who use new products or services must be able to trust that they are being treated fairly. The point is, New York State is now looking into Apple Card and, of course, Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs issued a statement saying that the discrepancies happen because credit decisions are made on an individual basis, not taking family factors into account. So obviously, why that rings a little hollow is that one gentleman can file with a joint tax return, joint assets, joint income, everything like that. And then the wife with the same everything is then given a 10-time lower credit limit. What gives? Well, who knows? To continue on with Goldman Sachs' statement, quote, we look at an individual's income and an individual's credit worthiness, which includes factors like personal credit scores, how much debt you have, and how much debt has been managed. Based on these factors, it is possible for two family members to receive significantly different credit decisions. In all cases, we have not and will not make decisions based on factors like gender. I would agree with that, with an asterisk. And that asterisk being, I think that these algorithms, even if they are not expressly sexist, if they're not expressly biased, We have seen other instances where algorithms are filled with data that seems perfectly good, but then when you really dig into where you source it from, where you got it from, what it includes, like if you look at a population, let's take something very innocuous. Let's say you look at the length at which people own homes around a military base. And obviously, with military families, you may be coming and going, you may be switching bases every 2 or 3 years. That means that families may own their homes for, 2-3 years on average, maybe 5, for some of the more permanent residents. And then you look at other neighborhoods, like let's say suburbs of, very reliable jobs and industry, and places where people just don't really sell their houses all that often. You're not taking gender into account. You're not taking race, ethnicity. Of course, it's going to be different locations, but you're not taking anything inherently sexist or racist from this data. But then you say that, if you live in this neighborhood, you are probably going to sell your house within 2 years, or this individual will sell their house in 2 years. Everyone sells their house within 2 or 3 years. Therefore, we're going to give you a much higher interest rate. Whereas this neighborhood, hey, you don't sell your house that often, you're going to get a much lower interest rate. But really, that's not reflective of the individual, it's reflective of the area. Still, it's going to skew all the data altogether. If you have found to have lived at that address, maybe they'll assume that you will sell your house faster than other people. What I'm saying is that data as a whole doesn't have to be racist, doesn't have to be sexist, doesn't have to be anything negative. But depending on where you source the data from, it doesn't give you a complete picture, and then it can become one of those things because it's not a good enough picture. And I think in this case, that's kind of what happened, where banks are using these algorithms that say that men are head of household, men handle more debt than women, men are the ones who bring in the most income. If you file a joint tax statement, maybe the men are listed first on the joint tax statement before the women are. Therefore, they are, as I said, the head of households. And there you go. They are going to get a 10 to 20 times greater credit limit than their wives because they handle, like they said, quote unquote, they manage more debt. Now, the statement does not specifically address why several users reported that their wives were given significantly lower Apple credit limit and higher rates, despite being the higher income earners in the family. And like I said, maybe the data is skewed. And that's one of the problems with these algorithms, with these, they keep calling it black box, but machine learning, algorithm, AI, whatever you want to call it, is that the data has to be very, very good. And if you have very bad data, you will have very bad outcomes. Just because you have a lot of it doesn't mean it's good data. Just because it's recent doesn't mean it's good. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's good. The ability to curate data, trust me, we've had companies on the show that, that's their only job. Their job is to collect data and manage it for these companies to input into their, to input into their systems. It's not easy. And I can totally see a bank, even the size of Goldman Sachs, doing this. And of course, Apple, unfortunately, being caught in the crosshairs. So let's go ahead and continue with the article. They're saying that unintended consequences, saying it's unlikely in the extreme that someone at either Apple or Goldman Sachs sat down and said, let's treat women more badly than men. Doing so would be both more morally and economically stupid. And nobody is accusing the companies of doing it intentionally. They said that decisions made by the algorithm have a way of reflecting good old-fashioned human biases, just with even less transparency, as I was saying. The examples are countless. About a year ago, Amazon stopped using an AI tool for hiring and recruiting purposes after it turned out to not be advancing female candidates. Essentially, the software looked at the company's current successful workforce, which skews male, and decided male must be a determinant of success. There you go. Even though it's not explicitly saying men are better than women, they're saying that most successful candidates are men, therefore other potential successful candidates are going to be men as well. No one intended it. It's just a reflecting of the algorithm. In 2015, ProPublica discovered that the Asian American families were likely to be charged significantly more for SAT test prep services. The algorithm determining the price wasn't built expressly to discriminate by race. Instead, it used zip code, but it charged higher rates in neighborhoods that turned out to be predominantly Asian. There you go. And like we said, it's it just happens all the time with for every group you can think of, there's going to be an instance where it just didn't work out well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up this article, saying that the situation does not matter for my livelihood. He said this is not merely a story about sexism or credit algorithm black boxes, but about how rich people nearly always get their way. Justice for another rich white woman is not justice at all. And with that being said, I hear the frustration of women and minorities who have already been beating this drum loudly and publicly for years without a level of attention, saying I didn't wish to be subject to matter that sparked these fires, but hey, I'm glad that they're going. So with that being said, I would totally blame this instead of any kind of inherent sexism or anything like that on Apple or Goldman Sachs. I blame this more on algorithm. And that's a whole nother issue. That is a whole separate issue that a lot of these algorithms are completely and totally just not subject to any kind of review. They're not subject to any kind of to any kind of standards or rules that they have to meet. It's just their secret sauce, and hey, they protect it very, very closely. And like we said, even if they were reviewed, it still takes time and takes a lot of energy and effort to determine if the outcome is even fair, even after all the data looks to be okay. So there you go. That's that story. Crazy. Again, if you're a woman who was turned down for an Apple Card and your husband was approved for some reason, hey, maybe you were affected by this too. Who the heck knows? Let's go on to another story here, and I actually like this one because I've known many security researchers, through Computer America, and one of their jobs is to do a penetration test, and that is for any means, especially for very high-value targets. And in this case, we have a courthouse, which you can imagine all the private legal matters, all of the all of the communications between judges and lawyers and clients, and government staff and things like that. You can imagine that this would be a very attractive target for blackmailing, ransomware, so on and so forth. So penetration testing is when a security firm says, we'll play the role of the bad guy, you play the role of you, and we'll try to get into your network. We'll see what we can find. We'll discover any kind of, misconfigured servers or employees who don't follow, basic etiquette for, keeping your industry safe, things like that. It's a very common tactic, but unfortunately, some companies and some people don't like it when it goes poorly because they think, okay, we'll pay for penetration testing and we're going to be perfect. We're going to pass with flying colors. And then take an instance like, Delta Airlines, or was it United Airlines? It was one of these airlines. They were compromised by a white hat hacker who was doing penetration testing. And instead of awarding him and saying, oh, thanks for finding our vulnerabilities, here's a reward, instead they're saying, how dare you break into our systems, face jail time. Whoa, bad, right? Very, very bad. Bad for the industry because it's going to largely deter individuals and companies from doing this if they face criminal action for technically doing a criminal act, but it's the only way to really see where your vulnerabilities are. And again, they have standards and ethics that they do this by. They publish everything. They let the victim know exactly what's going on. In many cases, they are contracted by the victim. Overall, there are ways of doing this properly, and it helps everyone. This is not the way to handle this. So the article in question here, Iowa asked researchers to break into a courthouse, then it arrested them. You can see where you can see where the problems start to arise, is that they asked them to, and then they arrested them. So ransomware attacks have cost cities like Atlanta and Baltimore millions of dollars and made it clear that state and municipal governments need to protect themselves against cyber threats. So the state of Iowa hired cybersecurity firm Coalfire to conduct a penetration test. Like I said, very common, nothing unusual yet. The state asked the company to try to break into the servers and physical buildings to see if they could gain access to sensitive data or equipment. And when the two Coalfire employees successfully broke into one Iowa courthouse, they were arrested and charges had not yet been dropped. So, obviously, if you're doing a penetration test, and there's a couple ways to take this before we go any further. Actually, let's talk about the incident, and then we'll, go on. So the incident occurred in September. The Coalfire employees found a door to the Dallas courthouse open. They then closed the door to see if it would lock and attempted to open it, setting off an alarm. Following protocol, they waited for police to arrive and showed them their paperwork. The first deputies to respond told the employees that they were good to go, but moments later, the local sheriff showed up and arrested them. So the Coalfire employees spent the night in jail, and as if it weren't bad enough, they were charged with felony accusations of burglary in the third degree and possession of burglary tools. Their bail was set to $100,000. Coalfire expected the issue to be resolved quickly and charges dropped, as the company had a contract with the state and had completed penetration tests at other Iowa courthouses. So this was not even their first time. This was not a company that was, completely new to this, or its employees were completely fresh and they did something completely wrong. No, this has happened before, although being arrested and the charges not dropped. That's the difference. They said that the charges were reduced to criminal trespass, and the charges still stand more than 2 months later. Saying, quote, "The ongoing situation in Iowa is completely ridiculous." This is from the CEO, saying that our mission is to help our clients secure their environment and protect the people that work for them, their customers, and the confidential information that they maintain. In this case, we were helping to protect the residents of Iowa. Which is, of course, true. And if the story is to be believed, which I don't have any reason to doubt these people, that they found an open door, that they closed it, and then when they opened it again, the alarm went off, it sounds like if they were really there to cause harm, they would not have closed the door to begin with. They would have just walked right in, and then they would have had access to, or physical access to, a lot of material. By them closing the door, seeing if they even had an alarm and what would happen, that seems to be where they messed up, because, hey, that makes a very bad burglar, but that makes a very good security, for a security official. Because, it's not even so, of course it would have went into the report saying that, oh, the door was left open, you need to, close your doors, after you lock up, things like that. But at the same time, they also have to assume that if the doors are closed, then you're safe from that threat. So they were testing that particular aspect of it. So the security experts fear that this would have ramifications beyond the state. Penetration testing is a common practice, and security firms assume that they will be protected by contracts with their clients. Again, break into my facility in any way that you think is reasonable, and we won't prosecute you because you're doing us a favor. That's the deal. And they're not holding up to it. So they said that some fears this will discourage security researchers from testing state and municipal systems, as well as election and voting facilities that may be vulnerable to 2020 elections. At the very least, this is proof that we need a better way to handle cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and a reminder of how clueless governments can be. really, you would think that the contract alone, and whoever signed that contract and agreed to do this, they should have had the authority to authorize a practice like this. I don't know what the disconnect is between the individual who asked for the penetration testing and the sheriff's office, but that seems to be one that needs to be remedied and fixed very, very fast. There you go. So with that one, how about we go ahead and talk about how about we go ahead and talk about the no, I don't want to talk about killer robots. Okay. How about this one? This has to do with hard drives and hard drive failure rates. Yes, we're finally getting to that story. So this is Backblaze, and they have their third quarter 2019 hard drive failure rates. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. So obviously here's the graph if you're watching the video portion. There you go. But they said that a hard drive failure, obviously they're running these things continuously. They're doing read writes. They are, they're turning them on, turning them back off to simulate regular usage. And essentially they're saying, hey, how long until these things completely die? Because it's not if, it's when. It's when your hard drive is actually going to fail. So if you look at these stats, you can see when and where they start to fail. They said that, and of course, this has implications for purchasing your next hard drive, or just being on alert that if you have one of these hard drives, maybe the failure rates are a bit more than you would like. Let's go ahead and check it out. They said Backblaze lifetime hard drive annualized failure rates for hard drive models and service as of September 30th, 2019, reporting period April 2013 to September 2019 inclusive. Check that out. So some of these have been online for years and years and years, and they're doing a really good job. It said that the lifetime failure rate for the drive models in production rose slightly from 1.70 at the beginning of Q2 to 1.73 at the end of Q3. The trivial increase would seem to indicate that the effect of the potential Q3 data issue noted above is minimal and well within normal variation. However, they're not satisfied that that is true yet, and we have a plan for making sure that we'll have that in the next section, which you can see here. So let's see, looking here, they have a couple of different manufacturers, everyone from Toshiba to Seagate to HGST, and they have ones anywhere from 4 terabytes to 8 terabytes to 12 terabytes. And again, these are hard drives. These are not solid state drives. So the failure rates should actually be, let's see, I think solid state drives are a bit safer than traditional hard drives. But of course, traditional hard drives are much more common. So traditional hard drive, you're looking at failure rates of, let's see, so for HGST, anywhere from 0.5 all the way up to about 0.8 for the 12 terabyte. And they have anywhere from like a couple thousand to all the way up to like 12 or 19,000 different of these drives actively working. And I guess the average age would include, I guess, the months that they're working. And some of these can be as old as like 42 months, which is like what, almost 4 years, 3.5 years old, almost 4 years. Very, very impressive. So looks like some of the worst, unfortunately, came from Seagate. And by worst, I mean the ones with the highest failure rates. You're looking at the 4 terabyte Seagate with a 2.67% failure rate, which can be about 5 times as much as some of their competitors. And looks like the other worst one was a Seagate 12 terabyte, and you're looking at about a 2.3% annualized failure rate. So with that being said, the problem here is that those were some of the most common drives that they were testing. In some cases, they were testing, in some cases they were testing 19,000 of these or 37,000 of these, and they had them running for 50,000 days and 50 million days and 17 million days, and then they failed 2.3 or 2.67% of the time. The problem there is that other ones they're only testing like 100 of the Toshiba 4 terabyte, or they're only testing 800 of the Seagate 6 terabyte. But even though they're the most numerous, they're also the ones failing the most often, and not just by number but by percentage of the whole. So just by going by this, Backblaze seems to have found that Toshiba and HGST are two of the most reliable. And Seagate, don't get me wrong, one of the lowest here on the list altogether. You're looking at the 10 terabyte Seagate drive, and that thing only has a failure rate of about 0.5. Overall, like I said, you're looking at about a 1.7% failure rate. And, looking at this, Seagate's a great company. I'm not going to knock them. If I'm looking for a really, really reliable hard drive, I might be a little bit swayed by this, to stay away from either the very high capacity storage or their very low end of the model. And I'd probably go for something in the middle, because that seems to be a bit more industry standard as far as failure rate goes. So if you want to check this out, we'll include this whole article here with a lot more data over at Computer America. But yeah, I love it when these organizations really take the time and do really, really good reporting, and very cool. Love to see it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on. Let's squeeze in some Tesla news. And I shouldn't say Tesla, although this will affect Tesla in Europe, but Elon Musk. He has decided to pick Berlin, who knew, the tech capital of Europe, saying that Elon Musk picks Berlin for Tesla's Europe Gigafactory. Yes, you heard that right. I think this is the 4th Gigafactory. I think that there's one in the US, of course. There's one in China, or maybe there's 2 in China. Hopefully the article has it. But now we're looking at the next Gigafactory, which produces batteries in Europe. It just makes sense. And if I had to guess, you're looking at the European Union tariffs and for importing and exporting. Elon Musk said Tuesday during the award ceremony in Germany that Tesla's European Gigafactory will be built in the Berlin area. Musk was on stage to receive a Golden Steering Wheel Award given by Bild, saying that there's not enough time tonight to tell all the details, but it's in the Berlin area and it's near the new airport. Tesla is also going to create an engineering and design center in Berlin, because I think Berlin has some of the best art in the world. Diaz thanked Musk while on stage for pushing us towards electrification. Dice later said that Musk and Tesla is demonstrating that moving towards electrification works, saying that I don't think Germany is that far behind. Musk said when he asked why German automakers were behind in electric vehicles. He later added that some of the best cars in the world are made in Germany. Everyone knows that German engineering is outstanding, and that's part of the reason why we are locating our Gigafactory in Germany. Which I would agree. German engineering, man, if you want something built really solidly, I would say German engineering, one of the best. If you want something completely over-engineered, Germany, one of the best in over-engineering as much as they are in engineering itself. So I won't say that that's a bad thing, but a new Gigafactory. And of course, these are the things that produce the batteries for Teslas, for the Powerwall, and so much more. So there you go. Very, very short story. We can go ahead and continue on. How about this? iOS, and for everyone out there, so obviously, double chin. Yeah, we're working on it. But who has the best view of your double chin? And the answer to that might just be Facebook. Say what? Yeah, looks like this may have been a bug, and unfortunately, it did happen. Facebook, our iOS Facebook app, secretly using camera while scrolling the feed, and this is likely a bug. That's right. Saying that web designer Joshua Maddox has found the iOS Facebook app activating the iPhone camera while scrolling his feed. He found the same issue on 5 separate devices, with others able to replicate it. So it's not just one device, one accident, one iteration, one bad device. No, this is on all of them. He said that the same issue does not appear to be present in the Android app. So just the iOS Facebook app. He tweeted that the issue can relate due to an apparent bug in the app, which allowed him to see the camera view to the left of the feed of the within the app. And he said that the findings are consistent with our own attempts, and while iPhones running iOS 13.2.2 indeed show the camera actively working in the background, the issue doesn't appear to affect iOS 13.1.3. So a little bit older of the iPhone model, or I should say the iPhone operating system, and this means that this is a new issue, is what they're saying. Another commenter in the thread says that he sees it too on an iPhone 7 Plus running iOS 12.4.1. So, Okay, so it's hit and miss. If an older iPhone running an older operating system has it, then it's all over the road. Now, Facebook's most infamous privacy breach, being of course Cambridge Analytica, was a result of negligence rather than malice, and the company recently paid a fine for this failing, and the likelihood is that the camera activation is a bug rather than any nefarious intent on part of the social network. One possibility is a gesture bug partly open stories, and all the same as bugs go, switching on your camera in the background is about as big a security fail as you can possibly have. And you can even see the gentleman's tweet right here that led to the whole thing. He says that the feed is live only if you have given Facebook app permission to use your camera, which, hey, part of the Facebook app is the ability to post to your feed using your camera. So most people have probably allowed access to the camera from Facebook. And otherwise, it attempts to do so and iOS blocks it. Many people have granted access in order to take photos within the app, which, like I said, is probably the most common. So the best advice for now would appear to deactivate the permission for Facebook and the Facebook app to use the camera, which you'd have to go into security, privacy, camera, Facebook, settings, privacy, microphone, Facebook, and essentially turn them all off. You would be revoking your ability to take photos and record messages and make calls through the Facebook app, but it would keep you more secure. This might be a good time to kind of mention that just because an app asks for permission to do certain things doesn't mean that you have to allow them. You can, of course, say, no, I don't want you to have access to my location. No, I don't want you to have access to my microphone and camera. Or no, I don't want you to have information such as my past photos. It's okay to say no, and if the application says that, like, let's give an example. If you're trying to play a game, and just a mobile game, and you want to play the game, and it says, hey, we need to know your location data, and we need to be able to use your microphone, you can say no. And if the entire application comes to a screeching halt and says, well, we have to have this, otherwise you can't use the application, odds are you probably shouldn't be using that application in the first place. So don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to reject their request for all the information from your phone. Now, let's go ahead and continue on. We have time for maybe two more stories, and I wanted to cover this one. And okay, we're gonna end today's show probably because this is a pretty big article, as most motherboard articles are. And although this is more Vice and it's general science, man, I don't even know if I can cover this. I don't know if I'm even that smart to cover this. Okay. we are going to include this in the show notes. We're not going to cover it, but yeah. Essentially, the title of the article is "There's growing evidence that the universe is connected by giant superstructures, or giant structures," which I think most people out there know. There's clusters and superclusters and giant, giant. I guess just structures within the universe that connect galaxies and entire swaths of the visible universe as we know it. But it looks like there's even more forces at play that just don't make sense on, kind of an intuitive level. But hey, what does in quantum mechanics? And, the more you get into the stuff, the more interesting it gets. So we'll go ahead and include that in the article or in the show notes, but we won't be covering it here. Real quick, this next story, we've invited a guest onto the program, and I believe it was the Lux Research Institute. They're the ones who blew the whistle on Alphabet and Google and this whole story that came out yesterday. But of course, we weren't on the show yesterday, so we couldn't cover it. But it has to do with Google and their ability, and not really ability, but their attempt. Not really attempt because they're actually doing it. Google is storing everyone's medical information. Or I should say health data, not even medical information, health data. So your heart rate, your fitness level, your, the calories that you eat, what you eat, if you, let's say MyFitnessPal or something like that. All of that is being stored by Google, and Google's not saying why they're doing it. They're not saying what they're doing with it, and really they haven't even told anyone that they're doing it. So this article came out yesterday, and like I said, we should have a guest here in the next couple of days to really talk about this in depth and what it means, but I wanted to get the idea in your head. Saying that when will someone go to jail? A new report shows Google secretly storing health data of millions of Americans. And that's according to the Wall Street Journal. Neither patients nor doctors have been notified of the data collection and storage. Saying that a bombshell new report from the Wall Street Journal describes a secret project from Google and healthcare giant Ascension to store data on millions of Americans, a move that critics of the tech conglomerate decried as another example of overreach. And that's the problem, is it really overreach if no one has told them no? If they're able to team up with these companies that are going to hand over the data, just completely go for it, and no one says you can't do this. Google has done this in a number of times where they, as a tech company, as most tech companies are, they are much, much ahead of legislation that would in any way kind of rein in their activities. And this is just another instance of that, where their activities are in no way hindered by the legislation on the books. So according to the journal, Google and Ascension made the decision last year to collect data across 21 states in an initiative named Project Nightingale. Weird. Google, in this case, is using the data in part to design new software underpinned by advanced artificial intelligence and machine learning that zeroes in on individual patients to suggest changes to their care. Staffers across Alphabet, Google's parent, have access to the patient information, documents show, including some employees of Google Brain, a research science division credited with some of the company's biggest breakthroughs. Huge amounts of data. It's what makes the world go round. So they reported that the Nightingale scope pertains to lab results, doctor diagnosis, and hospitalization records, among other categories, and amounts to complete health history, including patient names and dates of birth. Pretty invasive. I don't think anyone really wanted Google to have that kind of thing, but I'm not surprised. If Equifax could come back and have the amount of data that they had, I am in no way surprised that Google has this kind of thing. So neither patients nor doctors have been notified. At least 150 Google employees already have access to much of the data on tens of millions of patients, according to persons familiar with the matter and documents. So the project is illegal under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act from 1996, though some staffers at Ascension are reportedly concerned about the ethics of the collection. And like I said, that's the thing, is that when is someone going to go to jail, or, why is this not illegal? It's because I really do feel like it's just not being legislated whatsoever. They undertake these new initiatives that I bet you that if they were to tell a governing body that we want to collect the health data on millions of Americans, and we're going to design an artificial intelligence that is going to prescribe either medication or a fitness plan or a diet plan, or one of these other systems that they could then market and sell as a service. And then Congress said, or whatever legislative body said, hey, we need some oversight. We need to really regulate what you're going to do. This is information that was not given to you, but you're going to be collecting on your servers, blah, blah, blah. Google would just scrap the whole thing, pull the plug, and say, we're not going to do it. That's, it's too much, it's too difficult. We're just not going to worry about it. It's just not going to be our issue. And then they'd go off and do something else that they would not. That they would not jump in and legislate on. They're doing it in part because they know that they legally can. They can probably make money off of it. And then in the long run, any kind of legislation is going to be too late to hinder the product that they already have. So when will someone go to jail? For this? Probably never. Because again, it's technically legal, if not explicitly legal. So there you go, everyone. That's our show for today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Some very interesting stories. And again, Disney Plus, if you're having troubles with that, that's simply because everyone is having troubles with that. So everyone, come on back. Tomorrow we should have, another great show for you. Tuesday through Friday this week. And everyone, Computer America, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.